Hi, so welcome to my submission for the BrivoLabs Apex REST service. I'm going to take you, give you a walkthrough of the setup first. So let's go to the Salesforce app. So the first thing you'll need to do is obviously install the unmanaged package. The URL is connected to my submission. I've also added an installation guide which will walk through some of the steps I'm describing now. So the first thing to do is to enable the chatter feed on events. So let's go setup. We need to go to customize, chatter, feed tracking, events. Make sure enable feed tracking is checked. So as you can see, I've already done that. The next thing to do is you need to set up a connected app. So for that, we go to create apps. As you can see, I've already got one here, but you'd click on new. I'll edit it so you can see the kind of same form you'll get. So give the connected app a name, API name, put in a contact email, enable OAuth settings, the callback URL. So I guess this should be a valid endpoint in the calling application. For the purposes of this demonstration, I've just put in this HTTPS unknown. Obviously not valid, but you need to put something in there. Select access and manage your data API and add it to the selected OAuth scopes. That should be all you need to do there, so save that. Also at this point, make a note of the consumer key and the consumer secret, because you'll need those two values to test the web service. Next, you need to create an event. So pretty much go to any account. Again, I've got one already created here. To open activities, new events. Drill down on the one I've already got. So there's a new field here, BrivoLabs chatter enabled. So make sure that's ticked if you want the web service to successfully create a chatter post. Make sure you add some attendees, because those will be the contacts that will be submitting their check-in information. The most important thing here as well is make a note of the event ID here, and likewise if you want to test it with a contact, make sure you get a contact ID as well. Make a note of that. So onto the test. So the way I tested this web service without having a connected application was to use curl. I've added some installation sort of guide in the installation setup that I've attached to my submission. So if you don't already have it installed, follow that guide and that should get you up and running. So to give you a demo, I have got a example JSON file. So this contains the parameters for the web service. So event ID, contact ID, building name. So again, make sure those IDs are valid if you want this to work. The next step is to call the web service using curl. Now, typically with OAuth, you share the tokens, and using those you can pretty much call the service. But for this instance, I don't have a connected app, so I'm going to obtain a session ID using this command. Examples of these commands, by the way, are in the installation and setup guide. So I'll run that. I've shown you them in the wrong order. So first of all, you need to get your session ID. Paste. That will return you your session ID. You can copy that. Insert that into the web service call. And as you can see, if the call was successful, then you get back a status success and a message chat post created. If you return to the UI, return to the events, and refresh, you see it's created 2 chat posts because I accidentally called it the first time before obtaining my session ID. As you can see there, 1 success and another, which is why we've got 2 on there. So it follows the formats. Mention the owner of the event, the contact, the name of the contact is just checked in at test building, so that's the building name. So let's give a quick overview of the classes and how it works. So let's go to developer console, BrivoLabs. So I've created a class called BrivoLabs. It's a REST resource, / BrivoLabs. There is a one method, HTTP post, check-in, accepts event ID, contact ID, building name. Event ID refers to an existing force.com event record. Contact ID refers to the existing contact record who's involved in Brivo check-in and has been added to the event. The building name is a string that contains the name of the building where the user checked in. I've also created a custom class check-in response, returns a status that indicates success or error and a message that describes the nature of any errors. This method creates a chat post on the given event that mentions the record owner of the event and informs them that the given contact has checked in at the given building. The event has the new BrivoLabs Chatter enable checkbox set to false, then no chat post should be created. Scrolling back up, so I've got some custom exceptions, so building name not provided, contact not provided, event not found, and event not provided. There's also a few constants which correspond to error messages, success, failed, error, success message, chatter post created, and failure message, chatter post disabled on event. So looking at the method, so we've got the template at the top, so if you decide you want to change that, the app mention is pretty much hard-coded to be at the front, so you might need to modify this method if you want to change where that's located. But we've got the tokens to represent contact name and building name. The tokens will obviously be replaced further in the code. It's just sort of gives you an easy way to quickly change it if you want to. Debug out the parameters passed in, do a quick check to make sure that each of them were provided. If not, throw the relevant exception. Get the event relation details. So using the event ID and the contact ID provided, find the event relation. If it doesn't return one, then throw an event not found exception. Get a reference to the event relation returned. Check whether BrivoLabs Chatter enabled is true. If it is true, then default the chatter message to the template. Replace in the contact name and the building name. Debug out the chatter message, make sure it looks good. So let's start creating the chatter message. So this uses Connect API. Set community ID to null. Feed type record, set up the various inputs, message body, etc. Create a message segments, add in the mention, add in the text, so that's the chatter message, add the message body, and then post the feed item to the event feed. Return success, the success message. Obviously, if BrivoLabs chatter enabled is false, then return failure and the failure message. Handle the various exceptions, so just return a message indicating what the problem was. Obviously got a generic exception, so if anything unexpected happens, we would just return the line number and the message containing the exception, and then return that. So that's your web service. There's a test class as well, which just basically test the various paths that you can take through the code. So do a test check-in with chatter enabled, make sure that works okay, set up all the necessary data, call the web service, well, obviously not call the web service, but call the method that sits behind the web service, make a few assertions, check that we got a success message, check that it did actually create a record on the event feed, test a check-in where chatter posts are disabled. So again, just pretty much the same thing, but we check that we got a failure message and the event feed count is 0. We test the various exceptions that can happen, so the building name not provided, contact not provided, event not provided, and event not found exception. That basically concludes my demo, so I hope it works well for you. Hope you like the solution, and thanks very much.